Us, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Gran Torino. Before I introduce my next guest, I want to ask you, if you're new to the platform, please don't forget, press the like button, the subscription button, and the bell, and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts here on the Gran Torino. Also, I want to direct your attention to the new Gran Torino merch that's available on our online store. Just go to World Wide Web, grantorino.ie. You'll be taken to the shop, or alternatively, type in the Gran Torino shop, and you'll be taken to the Teespring link. And please check out the lovely merch, as we always say here. So my next guest, we've interviewed before. He has a keen eye, gives us a 30,000 down view perspective of geopolitical goings on within Europe, obviously, and back home in America. And I wanted to introduce to you, and I'm delighted to introduce to him again, Dr. Steve Turley. Dr. Turley, thank you for joining me again. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great. It's great to be with you as always, Ron.
Thank you, sir. And another thing before we get started, please do check out, I'll leave a link in the description box of Dr. Turley's channel. And please do go check out Dr. Turley's wonderful books, many books, and his online store. And please help to perpetuate his channel also, and give you, as I say, another perspective of geopolitical and European political movements around the world. Dr. Turley, let me just jump off. I've just developed this new tact. I want to hit us with the three subjects that I think we can tie in together. First of all, with the latest arrest of Epstein, the implications of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. It's one of the biggest arrests that's ever happened, and with the raft of information that's been disclosed through, I might add, Mike Cernovich's lawsuit, which took a year long to disclose these this evidence. Sorry, Cernovich got the evidence, and again, it was sequestered on. But again, it's all coming out in the wash, and the implications go from all over Washington, all around the world, with royalty, with Hollywood stars, hip hop stars, all around the world. This political elite have now been practically discovered and exposed for what they are. Second of all, give us your inevitable view again of the European political sphere, how you see that playing out now with Angela Merkel's seeming impending ill health. And also, if you might, have a look what's going on here back in Ireland. And then third, on our third and final subject, and I know it's a big lead in, I did the exact same with E. Michael Jones, but I promise you the floor is yours. With Facebook and YouTube centering the likes of Paul Joseph Watson and Gavin Ennis, and effectively, as Paul Joseph Watson said, ascribing a fatwa on his head, it was okay to issue death threats and that Facebook wouldn't lie that down. This blatant censorship of conservative viewpoints, I can only say conservative, with a bit of Christianity tossed into the mix, but no religions are safe. And with that, Antifa violence and the spread of violence generally throughout Europe that's being massively underreported by mainstream media. Dr. Turley, take us away.
Yeah, wow. Great lead in there. Let's see. They're all interrelated, obviously. You know that. And we'll start with the whole Epstein thing. What we're seeing really is the fruit of now decades, if not even a couple of centuries, of the seeds of globalization germinate. And what we have to understand is and people have always been, humans have never failed to disappoint. We see it in Genesis chapter 3, right? We don't get very far in the Bible until we see something disappointing with humans. Humans desiring things we ought not to desire, right? That forbidden fruit. But something happened in the 18th century in the Enlightenment. And that was this notion that the way we know the world is now forever going to exclude the true, the good, and the beautiful, which was the property of theology and philosophy. The way we're going to know the world is actually a one-size-fits-all scientific rationalism. That's going to give us objective knowledge for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. And those who embrace that are enlightened, and those who reject that are savages, primitives, superstitious, and the like. And in embracing scientific rationalism as the sole way of knowing the world, we reconstituted the world around very sterile, impersonal, mechanistic, one-size-fits-all structures. So whether we're dealing with our demographic issues or economics or our politics or society, everything now is understood in these, numerical, metrical, quantitative, industrialized formats. Where in do you find the true, the good, and the beautiful? They're gone. Now, you actually get to create them yourself now. That's kind of the idea of self-identity and self-aesthetic and the like. And what we're doing is we're seeing the fruits of this. We're seeing our globalist elite for what they've actually become. They've become the logical outworking of what happens when humanity drops the true, the good, and the beautiful. Good old C.S. Lewis said it this way: if you don't have truth, goodness, and beauty, you cannot cultivate virtue, because virtue is the ordering of our loves in accordance with that divine meaning and purpose. And if there's no divine meaning and purpose out there, then there's nothing to order my loves towards. So I like explaining it to my students this way: it's good to love a baby, and it's good to love a ham sandwich. But if they're both falling and I rush to save the ham sandwich, that's bad. And it's not bad because the sandwich is bad. It's bad because I've dislodged my loves from God's economy of goods. Babies are infinitely more valuable than ham sandwiches. So true education, historically speaking, was learning to love what was truly lovely and desire what's truly desirable, and hence experience our ultimate human flourishing. We still fell, we still stumbled and all that, but there was a nobility to our goals. There was a nobility to what it meant to be human that today we've lost. It's gone. And now, as we're seeing with Epstein, we don't make differentiations anymore between what is a legitimate object of sexuality and what is not. We can't. In a globalist world, we can't, because the very truth, goodness, and beauty frames of reference by which we could cultivate that kind of virtue has disappeared, and we're reaping the rewards. And it is cross-cultural; it's all across.
Oh yes. Could you blame one of the factors of the exponential proliferation of pornography and the effect it's having on not only young men but young women too? The classrooms now preparing to further the education, and especially here in Ireland, and I'll keep referring to it till I keep banging the drum. We have 4 infants of 4 years of age being indoctrinated, not educated, in self-pleasuring or masturbation. I don't even know how you would even explain that, but the fact that it's being introduced in a curriculative format just fills me with abhorror. But our sense of morality as a society, with these, free access to pornography, which I think is the ultimate corrupter in the dynamic between men and women, and I think it's been firmly placed by nefarious, because like pornography is free, but you have to pay X amount for a loaf of bread or commercial goods. But this corrosive stuff that perpetuates misery on its actors and stuff like that. We all know the backgrounds generally. It's not the fantasy role play that it's led out to believe, but the cognitive impairment that it strikes on the male psyche, especially. Let's focus on the male psyche, because it drains them of desire and passion to be able to meet another partner to produce life.
Yeah, so it's fantastic what you said there. And that goes all the way back to Plato. Plato recognized this. Plato made a distinction between love and lust in a very fascinating way. He said that, in effect, love is evoked through beauty. By encountering, that's why we find anything we find beautiful, we're attracted to. We're drawn to. It's a physics. It's drawing us somewhere. I like this. It's like the tractor beam in Star Wars language, right? It's a gravitational pull. Beauty was a physics in the it existed out there. And then when we created our cultures, we tried to create our cultures to instantiate and embody those ideals of beauty. That's why they're supposed to last forever. That's why there's a difference between a cathedral and a tin shack. A cathedral is telling a truth that is as permanent as the structure. And it's supposed to awaken love. And what is love? Love surrenders itself to the object of its attraction. That's why, the Western position for asking a woman's hand in marriage is to get down on one knee. It's to say, in effect, I will serve you. I will empty myself. This is the idea of patriotism. This is the idea of nationalism, the idea of emptying oneself for something larger, for our inheritance that we've received from our forefathers and for our future. We don't tend to talk much about the future today in these noble terms, right? It's all about me, exactly. So this is what love is. Love is awakened by beauty, and by definition, love seeks to surrender itself to the object of its attraction. What are we teaching our kids today? Well, if we don't teach them there's anything like real beauty, and that's where, you know, theology comes in and philosophy comes in. If we don't teach anything about real beauty, then we're not teaching them how to love. So we shouldn't be surprised that we've confused love with lust. And what's lust? This is for Plato, and it becomes formative for the church. Lust does not seek, lust is also a desire like love, but lust is very different. Lust does not seek to surrender itself to the object of its attraction. Lust seeks to control and to dominate the object of its attraction. And again, it all fits together. What is globalization? What is it? It is a mass, supersized structure of control and manipulation. What is pornography? Right? This is the difference. If somebody put it this way, this is the difference between between nudes in an art gallery and nudes in a porno magazine. Nudes in an art gallery awaken our loves. They are idealistic Eves in front of us. All right? Nudes in a porno magazine awaken our lusts. And we are living in an age where we are confusing love and lust, and it's a direct result of the world we're living in.
100%. You describe it perfectly. It's a method of control, you know, and something we will as a civilization break away from, you know, as patriotism and nationalism spreads throughout Europe, which ties. Let's steer away from the Epstein issue, and more and more information, many great channels covering that issue, you know. So be well aware that there's a huge storm D5 on the way. So back to Europe, and focusing on Italy. You were recently back there again for and I've heard many great interviews. You were a busy man over there on your second trip to Italy. How do you see things going now with the latest information you have coming in on the sphere in Europe?
Yeah, Italy's amazing. Italy's ground zero, right? Italy, Hungary, Poland, they're fantastic. And I met many people from those nations at the conference, and they were all very excited about what was going on in their domestic setting. Yeah, what I saw in Italy, particularly getting to see Matteo Salvini. I mean, I haven't been at a rock concert in a long time, and man, I didn't smell any illicit substances, but we could have. We could, you know, I didn't have my lighter to.
You were in the presence of something special, really, weren't you?
You really were.
Like the movement. It's not just Salvini; it's the movement.
It's the movement. That's the movement. Yeah, and that's what I mean. They're going to do everything they can to try to bring Salvini down. But I saw the next generation. I saw Giorgia Meloni of the Brothers of Italy. She was unbelievable. She rocked the roof off the place. I think she's smaller than I am. I'm 5'5". I think she's like 5'2". Oh, she's stunning. I mean, yeah. And of course, you were in Northern Italy. This is Lega country. There's a new resurgent nationalism, populism out there for a number of reasons. I'm still always thinking about why is it, you know, you and I talk about what's going on in Ireland versus what's going on in, say, like Italy, or even in France with the surge of Le Pen. And I think one of the things that was really brought home to me when I was there, I'll be curious on your opinion on this, is really just how much of migration became such an issue for the Italians. So in 2013, there were about 40,000 migrants coming into Italy from Northern Africa. In just 1 year, in 2014, that 40,000 shot up to 170,000 in just 1 year. And then it hit its height the following year with 180,000. Now Salvini's knocked it down to 3,000. And I just think Italians had it. And this may be the key impetus for the Italians. I don't think they've had the scandals in the church that rocked Ireland and of course in the United States, that fits, of course, with this whole globalist structure that we're talking about with Epstein and all. It's the same dynamics operative there. Modernist, communist, I mean, the Brazilian philosopher Olavo de Carvalho talks very much about how Marxists deliberately infiltrated the Catholic Church. When is it? The 30s and 40s and so on, particularly in Europe. And so, yeah, we're seeing the very same modernist tendencies there as well. Italy doesn't seem to have had they haven't had those kinds of controversies. So there seems to be a resurgent Catholicism there. And again, it's a nationalist Catholicism. It's
when I was there visiting, my friend Davide Quadri, Youth Elite coordinator at the moment, but he's still making his progression into the European Parliament. Hopefully, again, he's garnished his contract there. But when I was there in my time, I was brought around to many great sites. The Holy Mountain at the northern point of Varese, where the nuns are still live there in complete isolation. The complete isolation. But the many walks that we took and the many hikes, getting to meet other friends of Davide. Every station there was a plinth or a monument. I took a great photograph. It's up on my Instagram account, and it's on the thumbnail of the last video drop that I carried out. But the perspective with the Swiss border, with the Swiss mountains and the Swiss border at the far, looking off into the distance. But every point that we went to, and every little town I went to, has a statue. There's a statue of Mary, and there's a little crucifix. It's still very much there, very much there. And to go back to your point with Matteo Salvini, I mean, currently today, looking at him today, he's actually he's taken away NGO facilitated migrant centres, because as the truth comes out with Lawrence Southern's Borderless documentary, that people are still kind of waking up to. We have to realise that these NGOs are facilitating human trafficking, and they're coaching many of the people to come off to give themselves illnesses so that they get preferential treatment and are brought up. And even here in our own government statistics released quite recently, only 8% of the asylum seekers that reach here in Ireland, not being their first port of call, are bona fide, genuine asylum seekers. So the whole system is corrupt. So leading from Epstein to the politics in Europe to these NGO facilitations, that big business, big corporations, big pharma all want a slice of the human trafficking pit that is the NGO facilitation. And so,
and it's very exactly you connect. It's very important to who is funding the NGOs, but the meta capitalists like Epstein, like Soros, and all. So we actually have now studies that have found that over the last 20 years now, I think. That the biggest corporations in the world today are giving inordinately amount of money to the leftists and who's ever in power, the leftists in power. So 90% of Microsoft employees donated to Hillary Clinton. 90% of Silicon Valley donated to Hillary Clinton. And you could go to Obama and the like. You could just go down the line. Even our university professors, I think they did a study on Princeton, and they found something like 120 or so professors contributed to Obama in 2012, and 2 professors contributed to Romney. Now Romney's many ways just as globalist, just as globalist as Obama, but they knew where the trajectory was moving. They would get more globalism with Obama. So it's all interconnected. They're funding this stuff, and then they're funding this stuff in the end to eradicate any sense of loyalty, any sense of emptying oneself and desiring something larger than oneself, but that is true to one's inheritance and true to one's faith and to one's family.
Now, that's succinctly, as I'm figuring it out here in my head, through further investigations, I think it'll be found that the EPA in the United States have numerous amounts of slush funds set up that were then facilitated into leftist, and again, NGOs. That paper trail is still being chased. I know Charles Ortel is doing some great work on the Clinton, which was originally only described as the William Jefferson Presidential Library and morphed into the Clinton Global Health Initiative.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be a huge bombshell when we get past the Secretary of State or 33,000 emails and the murder of Seth Rich and the coming together, I believe, of the evidence provided by Julian Assange when he is eventually extradited to the United States, and will make his evidence on discovery. And I think that's another huge popcorn moment that we're going to have to watch for. But those slush funds, through government organizations feeding the NGOs, and then with the puppet masters of corporations that will say the bigger players use, as you described, as you say, Soros, the usual suspects, they facilitate their 18 billion out to their NGOs. So we've got private funded NGOs that are now being implicated as being fraudulent human trafficking facilitators. We have that here in Ireland very much, and I'm hoping through these type of interviews and these discussions that people will lead into saying, let's have a look at these NGOs. Like I was recently attacked. I think I'm the 5th proud owner of a milkshake in Europe. Nigel Farage, Tommy Robson, Sargon of Akkad.
It is. It's a badge of honor now.
It's a badge of but look, it is. Assault is assault. And I believe, and I've seen Nigel Farage, as I said, was arrested and charged within 3 days. I'm 8 days now. I have made statements. I also have partners of serving officers in the jurisdiction spreading rumours that I haven't pressed charges. I have. The Gardaí, the DPP have failed to act on this. I don't know what the hold-up is, but we're waiting for this. And it was also brought to attention that Italy, my friend Davide Kadri, wrote an article and asked me about the leftist violence, which is available on my website there, worldwideweb.torino.ie. Go check it out there. But sorry, Doctor, you see what I mean? The slush funds, the corporate globalism, we're starting to see the revealing of the tentacles. Follow the money, and they will expose themselves.
Absolutely. And then I like just the way you even led it into then personal assault and deplatforming. You know, they're all the same. It is all an assault on the dignity of our argument. So and this is the ironic thing, because what globalists will do is they will say we are all for liberal democracy, we're all for all ideas being considered, blah blah blah. And then what they do, well, I heard it put this way, I think it's by fellow Doug Wilson. He put it this way, basically liberal democracy is based on 2 premises. We believe in free speech and shut up. And that's basically this performative inconsistency that they're working with. So whether it's a shake attack or whether it's deplatforming, whatever it is the redefinition of liberal democracy around globalist norms. And now you're no longer allowed. We have a taboo code now that says you're no longer allowed to question globalism. To question globalism is to question that which has brought all this peace and harmony and liberal democracy into our world, you jerk, you idiot, kind of thing. That's what we're getting. It's funny because the leaders, the higher ups, the Junkers, the Obamas and all, they can look, although Juncker comes across as pretty horrible, but right. I mean, Obama at least could have that sort of cool, detached, disinterested sort of look to him. The social justice warrior wackos on college campuses can't do that. They haven't developed that maturity, so they throw things. They call names and they have tizzy fits and so what we're finding is that we're now living at a time where the taboo codes that once would have said, well, yeah, burn that person because they're a witch, or burn that person because they're a heretic. That's still there. That didn't disappear. That's still very much there. But now it's for those who are challenging globalist norms. And rather than engage in discussion, I mean, we see it all the time. I see it with the articles you're in. I've got it with mine. I mean, the articles that are being written today on like BuzzFeed and all are just there to defame. They're just there to discredit. They're not there to understand or debate.
Sorry, Dr. Torley. Voice recently just got a 250 million injection to keep itself going because its revenues are falling. Guess who pitched into that? 250 million, George Soros again. And because nobody's paying attention to Voice. Nobody's paying attention to any of that nonsense. Literally, they're going away and they're having to self-fund themselves.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Think Progress, I heard, was another one. I just did a video on Think Progress, and that was who was it now? Who's Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, his name escapes me, a Pizzagate guy.
Oh, Podesta. That's going to come out. That's going to come out in Epstein. Pizzagate. Don't mention the word, sorry, but forget the algorithms. Oh, the algorithms. We talked about this for a year. I talked about this for a year, but it's pointing and screaming that I shut up. Now we've got justice. Now we can see an actual predator, billionaire predator, is jailed, and he is going to sing like a canary. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, he better. Yeah, that's for sure.
So, Dr. Turley, how do you feel about there? I think that was a great thing. Anything you want to add? Anything you want to tell us about what's coming up on your horizon, where you'll be attending, or what you'll be doing, or what are you working on?
Wow, let's see. Well, I mean, I put the big thing, of course, was the European parliamentary elections. Those were huge. Don't let anybody tell you they weren't. I mean, you're dealing with a nationalist populist presence that was more or less about 1 or 2% of the parliament back in 1999. That is now 30%. So don't let anyone tell. We are riding a wave here that's only starting. That's the key. This is amazing stuff. So that was the big thing for me, is watching where Europe was going to go. We just saw Greece turn as well. Very interesting thing that I'm going to be watching over the next several months is the extent to which, if nationalist populist parties, so what we in the States call third parties, if they didn't make it like Lega did, for example, to make it into the centerpiece of their politics, watch to see their politicians, leaders, thought influencers begin to defect and go into the mainstream parties, like we saw with New Democracy, Nea Demokratia, and I could speak a little Greek too, and I messed that one up. Nea Demokratia, yeah. New Democracy. They left. They left Golden Dawn. They left Laos, and now they're in this party, very similar to what Trump did. And they're they're in a process of taking over parties, which is interesting. So I'm going to be watching that over the next couple of months. I think you and I talked about it. One of the big effects the nationalist populist right has had is turning mainstream parties into nationalist populist light. And I think we're going to start seeing those pathways.
We've already got that here. We've got a party called Anitfa, which is a branch off of the old Sinn Féin. So, but it's a pro-life, but still very much open borders. But it's globalism less with pro-life. So it's a process. And even Italy was a process in many respects. And it's almost like too, I'm waiting to see, I'm trying to identify more and more some of the key people. So you can analyze things at two levels. You can analyze things in terms of large trajectories. It's called holist analysis. But then you analyze them at like individual levels. Salvini, Orban, Duda, Le Pen, Farage. Who are the individuals that are kind of bringing what we want there? Gran Torino, right? Who are the ones who are bringing... It's about time you said it, that check is in the post. There is a movement starting, and I'll just make this segue while you branch that up. I will this weekend, I'll be able to be out on the road. The Gran Torino will be on the road, and I will be streaming live. And I will be sure to notify you where I will be and when I will stream. But going forward, I'll be conducting selective invitation-only events, but I will also be streaming them. So there are future things that I have planned for the Gran Torino going forward. Dr. Turley, I want to thank you for joining me so much in this episode of the Gran Torino, and thank you so much for giving me so much of your precious time. I know you're extremely busy. I encourage everybody, go check out Dr. Turley's channel. I've left a link in the description box. He gives twice daily broadcasts of geopolitical, everything you want to know, strategy, the latest comings and goings, and again, focusing on back home with him in the United States of America. Dr. Turley, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Most everybody. We'll see you on the next one.